DaVinci Resolve looks scary at first. All those wheels, nodes and scopes. But what if I told you that in the next 15 minutes, you could go from I have no idea of what I am doing to wow, I made this look cinematic AF. Let's demystify color grading together. No jargon, no ego. Just you, me, and this footage you can download to follow along. If you've never touched DaVinci Resolve, don't worry, you are not alone. I'm gonna give you a color grading crash course on DaVinci Resolve 20, where we're gonna grade step by step. If you're new here, I'm Frenchie, a commercial colorist that worked all around the world for multiple brands like Honda, Swatch, or Victoria's Secret. I'm a self-taught colorist and also someone that used to panic when seeing waveforms. So trust me, you are in the right place. Let's go to the tutorial. So guys, before we are jumping in our timeline, I'm just going to show you really quickly how to download DaVinci Resolve 20 because I'm sure there's some of you guys that are just really starting out. So you're going to go to the website. You can go to Blackmagic Design Products DaVinci Resolve. You're just going to scroll down and go to this free download now DaVinci Resolve. You're going to click on it and you're going to download the version you need for your computer. So for me, it's a macOS. And you're going to key in your detail and register and download. Once you've installed DaVinci Resolve, then we can go to the timeline together. So once I open DaVinci Resolve, you can see that I'm going to have my project manager over here. So what I'm going to do just to create my project is to double click on Untitled Project. And I'm going to just put the name of my project. So it's going to be Crash Course for this one. Crash Course DaVinci Resolve 20. I won't change my location because this is for my media cache. I like the default location. I just click create and I arrive in DaVinci Resolve. So what we're going to do is that we're going to focus on 2 pages for our crash course in color grading. We're going to focus first on the edit page and then we're going to focus on the color page. Okay, so first we're going to click on edit and go to our edit page. So why I am starting with edit, it's because we need to implement footage for us to color grade this footage after. So in the edit page, what is really essential to know is that this area is for the timeline and this area is for the media pool. If I want to grade a footage, I need my footage to be on the timeline for DaVinci Resolve to transfer then my footage on the other pages like the color page. So for that, I'm going to take my folder of crash course with the footage that we have and I'm just going to drop my footage into the media pool. So it's going to ask if I want to change the project frame rate. I will change the project frame rate because the default is 24 FPS. I want my project frame rate in 25 FPS because the footage that I'm implementing is a Sony a7S III footage, so it's in 25 FPS, so I can change the project frame. And then I'm just gonna put my footage over here in my timeline. And this is all we need to do. So once you've done this, you can go to the color page. So now that we are in the color page, the footage in our timeline appear in this page. So on the left side of your page, you have the viewer and the viewer will help us to see what are the adjustments we are applying on the image. Here we have the node editor and this is where we're going to make the adjustments and create the nodes to place our adjustments in our grade. You have also the clip section. So the clip section is more to see what clips you have in your timeline. If you want to remove the clip section and only see what you have in your viewer and have more real estate, you can click on this. Also, we have on the bottom of our page where we can do our adjustments. So I would advise you, if you are like me and you are on the high dynamic range color wheels, just to click on the primary color bars and go to the wheels because we're going to start with this first. But something to just understand is that this panel over here and this panel over here will be our tools to make our adjustments. And finally, you have the scopes that are on the bottom right side. And these scopes will help us to know what's going on in our footage in terms of colors, but also in terms of luminance. So if, for example, you arrive in your workspace and you see just the keyframe panel, you can just click on this waveform over here and you're going to arrive to your panel of scopes. Okay? So to start, the first step that we need to tackle with this image is actually to put the right color management on this footage. So I'm just going to click on my clips because I will need the clip to appear. And I'm just going to go to my little wheel over here on the bottom right. And I'm going to go to color management. So because we are beginners in this crash course, what I recommend you to do is that selecting in color science, DaVinci YRGB color manage, and leave the default settings in SDR. And you're going to see, I'm going to save it. Nothing's going to happen because I will need to just do one more step for my footage to be interpreted. So here, because it's a Sony camera, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the clip section. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to input color space. Here, I'm going to select Sony, okay? And this image is a Sony Gamut 3 Cine S-Log3. So when I'm clicking on this, my footage will appear in Rec 709. That means that it will appear with the colors that the camera saw on set. So now that this is done, I can just hide my clips to have more real estate. And if you want to move around your footage in the viewer or zoom and de-zoom, you can just do it with the middle click of your mouse. We're going to create our node tree to be able to make our adjustments. So what I recommend to you is to do the same node tree as what I'm doing and just follow along. We're going to start with the white balance. We want to make the image balance in terms of colors, okay? So for this, I can go to my scopes and select my parrots because my parrots will help me to know what is the level of each color in my footage. So over here, you can see that the red is really predominant over the green and over the blue. My objective is to balance everything and to have a white t-shirt, for example. So for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use my temperature and I'm going to use my tint and you're going to see what's going to happen. I want to make the image colder because what I see in my waveform is that there's too much red. That means that there's too much warmth in my image. So to make the image colder, we're going to go to our temperature and we're going to slide. So if you see my scopes at the same time, we're going to go to something that is actually balanced. So you see, if I go to minus 4000, I'm having something that is way more balanced. So I'm disabling the node, it's Command D or Control D. And you can see that before it was very warm, now it feels a bit more balanced. What I can do also is removing a bit of magenta. So I will go to the minus of my tint and I will stay around minus 12. So you can see this is before our adjustment, this is after. So to put it in full screen, you just do Command F, or to remove the full screen, you do Command F, okay? So after this, I'm going to create a node after my white balance. I will just press Alt S to create another node. If you want to do it by click, you can just right click, add a node, add a serial node. Okay? So for that, I'm just going to do my exposure. I'm going to use my primaries color wheels and you're going to see what my primary color wheels would do. Before we do this, I want to change my scope to the waveform because the waveform is kind of like the parrots, but it's the mix of the red channel, the green channel and the blue channel together, and it will help me to know where my luminance is sitting in the frame. What I want to do right now is that I want to put more contrast in my image and open up my image. So here we have the lift, and the lift is moving the darkest part of the image. So you can see it's targeting a bit more the shadows. The gamma is all the mid part of my image. So you can see it's controlling more my midtones. And my gain is all the brightest part of my image. So you can see it controls more my highlights. So what I want to do is that I want to bring up my gain a bit, just to open up my image. We're going to open up to 1.13. And I want to bring down my lift to -0.001. And maybe I will open up my gamma to 0.01. Like that. So you can see we went from this before to this after, which is great because it opens up the image and we can see a bit more clearly our character in the frame. What is important is that for the lift, I won't go under my 0 because otherwise if I go under, my blacks are crushed. And for my gain, I won't go over my 1023 because if I go over, my highlights would be clipped. So after this, we're going to tackle the skin because over here, we can see that the skin is a bit yellowish. So to confirm that, we can change our scope to the vector scope. So the vector scope is a very useful tool because it will help you to know what is the saturation of your colors in your frame, but also where the colors are sitting in your frame. So for that, we're going to go to our settings for the vector scope and make sure that you have show skin tone indicator that is enabled. Okay? The skin tone indicator is this line and it will help us to guide us to make a natural color of our skin in our grade. So we're going to create a node after exposure and we're going to put a node label that's going to be skin. Okay? So for this skin, I'm going to go to this little icon, which is the color wrapper, and we're going to stay on the Chroma wrap. So the Chroma wrap is very easy to use. You're going to need to be on the qualifier and we're going to select the skin that we want to change. So technically we are selecting the color we want to change in the frame. And I'm just going to expand my Chroma wrap for you to see a bit better. And our objective is to bring this little skin that you see. So you can see that I'm sitting in my vector scope to this spectrum of color. If, for example, you don't see what I see in my vector scope, what you can do is go to display qualifier focus. If I disable it, I can't see what's going on in my vector scope. If I put display qualifier focus, you can see that it will circle where my skin color is sitting. So I will just try to bring this skin color towards the skin tone line. So what I do is that I take my point that I already selected and I will try to go towards the skin tone line, but I still keep an eye on my image because I'm going to show you if I go over the skin tone line like this, if I try to match perfectly the skin tone line, here I'm having a skin that is too magenta. So what I want to do is that I want to be closer to the skin tone line, but I need to keep an eye on what is happening on my image and what feels the most natural. Okay? So once it's done, I can just disable it and enable it to see what's going on in my image. And you can see this is before, very yellow, and this is after, way more subtle and way more natural because we put a bit more magenta in the skin. Okay, so now that this is done, we're going to create another node, and this one is a particular node. You're going to just press Ctrl P, and this Ctrl P will create a parallel node. So technically the parallel node really quickly is that it's going to permit my node of exposure to feed my skin and feed my other node without having another node before that would affect it. I'm going to create a background node and we're going to do almost the same that we've done with the skin but with the background. And so for this, I still stay in the color wrapper, Chroma Warp. I can select my blue and I can bring the saturation of my blue a bit more, if you see. So then we have a bit more cyan going on in the background. So you can see this is before, this is after. It's great. And also what I want to do is that I'm going to switch to the waveform for you to realize this. In my image, I'm having my shadows that have a lot of red coming out. So my objective is to have less red in my shadows to come out, to have a better contrast going on. So you can see also in the footage, we have a bit of brown hair where actually my talent have dark hair. Okay, so for this, we're gonna still press Ctrl P and create another parallel node, and we're gonna call that shadows. And what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go to the HDR panel over there, and the HDR panel really quickly is a delimitation of the spectrum of light. And what we want to do is that we want to go to dark because we want to affect only the dark point of the image. And what we're gonna do is that we're gonna slide our dark towards the cyan. And so you can see in my waveform at the same time as what I'm doing, we have our red disappearing in our shadows. So you can see that before we had a proeminence of red over here, and after we have a clean shadow over here. So you can see the difference. This was before, this is after, and it feels way more clean before and after. And now it feels that the grade is popping more just like because we cleaned the shadows. So now that we have done this, we can finish our grade to a vignette. And a vignette could be very convenient for us colorists because the vignette will help us to have a sort of a relighting that would focus our attention to our character. So I like to finish my grades with a vignette because you're going to see the effect. It's pretty pleasant. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to the window panel and I'm going to select the circle. When I'm selecting the circle, if it doesn't appear on your viewer, you can change and go to the power window button. Once you have done this, you go around your character like that. You can feather the shape. So the outline is the feather, the softness. So to see what it's selecting, you can go to this button called highlight, and you can see that it's selecting only my character. What I want to do and what is interesting for me is actually to select everything outside of my character, but not him. So what I can do, I can just click on this button. That will invert my selection and take everything around, but not everything inside. So now that I've done this, I can go to my curves over here. I click here and go to my curves custom. And I'm going to create a point on my curve and go down like that. But not too much because we still don't want to have any shadows under the 0. And you're going to see what it does. So this is before, this is after, before and after. It helps our focus to be on our character by darkening the edge of our image. And it's already pretty cinematic. So you see, you don't need that many nodes to create a real great image. You only need a bit of white balance, exposure, some adjustment on the skin and the shadows, and a vignette, and you have a spanking grade. So I advise you to follow along and to copy what I've done, because this is a good exercise for you to adapt your eye to the color grading logic. And I hope that it helped you and that was simple enough to follow. And I see you next time, guys. See you, keep grading, have fun.